Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing CoolDefender in the 15-minute pool on ICC. He opens with the Nimzo-Larsen attack, b3 on move 1. Okay, I'm just going to play d5, and then after bishop b2, I think I'm going to play a disruptive move, bishop g4, but he surprises me, d4. That's a new one. Okay, I'm half tempted to play c5 and play it like a queen's gambit. But let's just play knight f6 to start. I'm really not sure about that move, d4, because it just looks like a d4, d5 opening where he's unnecessarily played b3 early on. So yeah, I'm really tempted to play c5 and treat it like a queen's gambit reversed, but you know what I'm going to do? I'll play bishop g4. This way he can't play e3. I think that's a move that a lot of players would like to play, because it kind of sets up a Kali system. Plays knight d2. Let's just play e6. And let me check out my opponent's stats. Plays a3, stopping a piece from coming into b4. Maybe not the most useful move, though. So my opponent's peak rating is 1937. He's active in all categories except for bullet. All right, here I think I will play c5. Now that e3 is not possible to prop up the pawn, I think this is a good moment to play it. And I can take this pawn, and he has to recapture with a piece. I feel that's a slight concession for him. So now we're going to have two center pawns against his none. He takes with the knight. We've still got this pin on the e pawn. That's rather useful. Let's play knight c6. He takes, okay. So now we have a strong center. He plays h3. I could play bishop h5 and try to bait him into playing g4. Yeah, let's do that. I think there's a good chance he might do it. And bishop back to g6 is safe enough. He's playing fast. Puts the bishop on the long diagonal. Now, probably time for me to figure out what to do with this bishop. I'm just wondering if I move the bishop out somewhere, let's say to d6, whether he'll play g5 and attempt to go after the g7 pawn. So let's say bishop d6, g5, knight h5, holding the g7 pawn. He could play e3 then, though. My knight is a bit stranded on that square. So maybe a precautionary h6 is in order. Be nice not to lose any time, though. Maybe bishop e7. You know what? No. After bishop d6, g5, knight h5, if he plays e3, he's actually just hanging the g5 pawn. So we don't have to be afraid of that. So in that case, maybe I will play bishop out to d6. I'm thinking about e7 as well, but I think d6 is the more active square. So let's move it there. He can castle, maybe with an eye towards playing f4. I can just castle myself. f4 doesn't threaten a whole lot. I don't think I'm scared of f5 yet. Yeah, let's just castle ourselves. He plays rook e1. Looks like he's playing for e4. I think he's going to try to make that advance happen. So how can I disrupt that plan? Not so easy to do. I could play queen c7, so create a little queen-bishop battery. And then in the event of e4, maybe give a check on h2. He moves his king, let's say to h1, and then I back the bishop up to f4. That way I'm hitting his knight, which in turn is defending e4. I like the look of that. Looks decent. And if queen c7, he takes f6, I incur a little bit of damage to my king side, but overall I think it's fine. So let's do that. He plays e4 without particular thought. Yeah, and I like throwing in this check first.
Check.
Just to make his king go away. Oh, he goes that way. Okay. Yeah, I mean, his king is a little more exposed on f1 than g1. If he had gone to h1, I like the fact that this pawn would have been undefended. My opponent is playing way too fast, I think. I'll probably still play bishop f4. Yeah, I mean, my bishop's not doing anything on h2. Yes, it is taking away some king retreats, but I can't like teleport this bishop over to a6 to check him and inconvenience him, so Probably bishop f4. Looks pretty good. Yeah, let's do that. So now I may have a threat of taking his knight and then winning the e4 pawn. So we'll see how he reacts. My guess would be he pushes e5. Maybe he'll take d5, but I don't think that looks appetizing because I can take with my c pawn. Then I'd be hitting his c2 pawn twice with my queen and my bishop. So somehow I think he's going to play pawn e5. And then I'll play knight d7, attacking the pawn on e5 thrice. He'll have to play knight f3, I think, in defense. And then maybe a timely f6 is going to expose his position a little bit. So let's do this. After knight f3, I can play bishop e4 too. That's a good move as well. But playing for f6 seems thematic. This king is on the f file. I don't know though, bishop e4 looks plenty good as well. Yeah, bishop e4 seems strong. Then at any time I can eliminate his knight and go take e5. Maybe I can play bishop e4 and also play f6. I mean, I could go for both ideas. Let's play bishop e4. His pawn structure doesn't make a good impression. The pawn on e5 is overextended. There's absolutely no doubt. Okay, so do I cash in? If I take right now, he takes with the bishop, and he's still defending this. Okay. So perhaps I should go to the f6 plan then. Unless I see some way I can attack this pawn further, but I don't really see it. If I take e5 right now, by the way, so let's say like knight takes e5, he'll take with his knight, I take with my bishop, he takes with his bishop, takes with the queen, and f3 might be an issue there. Moreover, he could even take on e4 and win back the pawn. Yeah, let's play f6. I'm going to open up the f file. He gets to solve his weakened pawn problem, but we are gaining some open files. Also, I have 2 center pawns to his none. So all in all, I'm still very happy with the position. We're weakening e6 a little bit, so it'd be nice to play rook a e8 soon. I think there's a good chance he might play like a knight d4 type move. The knight on f3 and the bishop on g2 are an awkward combination. He wants to move that knight so as to offer a trade of the light square bishops. Yeah, probably my next move will be rook a e8 if nothing else changes. Maybe eventually I can get my knight into where my bishop is currently sitting on e4 and generate threats on f2. That would be nice. So I think he's kind of demonstrating a time issue that you see a lot, and I've talked about a lot too, which is he's only starting to think when his position is already kind of difficult. You know, he didn't pause to think for the first 10 plus moves, and he played some pretty questionable moves in my eyes. And only now is he stopping to think, and some of the damage has already been done. Okay, so he plays the immediate knight d4. So that attacks e6. So if I play rook a e8, is f3 a problem? Pawn f3. Because then if I move the bishop away, knight takes e6, and he's in a pin, but he might be able to get away with that. Something tells me I should have some tactics in the event he tries this. Like maybe something like rook a e8, f3, e5 is strong. Just opening lines. I'm going to play this move first and then deal with the calculations later, because my intuition says that this is excellent for me if he plays f3. And he plays it. Okay, so he's going to go after it. Yeah, so like one move here is bishop g3. Attacking his rook. And then if he takes here, I have discovered attacks with my knight. Yeah, like bishop g3, f takes e4, knight takes g4 looks good. Check. And if king g1, yeah, I'd be winning there. Something like bishop f2 check. So bishop g3 is one candidate. e5 is another, as I was mentioning before. If pawn c5, he can play knight b5 with tempo on my queen. I'm not sure I like that. Bishop g6 is another move. Bishop g3 just seems like the right decision. Could he really play bishop g3, f takes e4, and then kind of depends which way I take, but let's say knight takes g4. Could he play knight f3 then? I've got some stuff hanging. Doesn't seem like he should be able to get away with that, but I don't see an outright refutation off the top of my head. So bishop g3, f takes e4. Could also play knight takes e4 check. That might even be better. Yeah, that might be a lot better. Because then if knight f3, if I take on e1, he cannot take with the rook because I have knight g3 check. So he'd have to take with his queen. And then maybe a move like queen b6, stopping king g1. All right, let's do it. Let's play bishop g3. Attack his rook. I think he's going to be very hesitant to play f takes e4 anyways. It looks pretty awful. He might just run away with his rook. And in that case, I don't think I should back down. I think I should play e5 and look to open lines. e5 is like begging to be played right here. e5, knight f5, I can take it. That's just awesome for me. Looking at some direct stuff too, like knight takes g4, but then he has h takes. I'm not sure I'm getting the type of open position I want there. Yeah, let's go e5. 6 minutes left. I think I'm getting a big advantage out of this, so I'm content with that. I think knight f5 is practically forced. He cannot take here. That would be too much. If he does take e4, I can even just take d4. So knight f5, he plays that move. Okay. So if I take here, he'll take e4. I have stuff like rook f2 check in that case, or rook f2, not check, but attack on his queen then. Let's take first. Pawn takes. Yeah, take here now, enabling the rook f2 idea. You know what I'm also threatening is bishop h2. Bishop h2, king h1, knight g3. Just winning his queen. Yeah, this is going to be over soon. His pieces are not in a position to defend. If bishop takes e4, probably just rook takes is the simplest. Bishop f2 check also looks good, but I think rook takes e4 is good. Good enough. Let's pre-move that, actually. Extremely risky play by white in the opening in this one. And that idea just looks downright bad. b3, d5, d4. I don't see the logic behind that at all. Just blocks the diagonal that he wants to put his bishop on. At best, it seems like white's going to get a Kali system if he can continue with e3. But if you're going for a Kali, that's not the way to do it. Okay, now if queen g2, rook f2 nearly traps the queen, he'd have to go to h1 in that case. And then something like just bishop h4 preparing queen g3 should just win. Easily so. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, he's going to sack his queen. But this will be mate soon. Queen f4, queen h2. Both lead to a swift mate, I think. Queen h2, king f3, rook e3 is mate. Queen h2, king f1. Rook f4 is going to be mate next move. It's good enough for me.
Check.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
All right, so that collapsed pretty quickly for white after we got the f6 move in. So let's go back and have a look. So b3, d5, and then d4. As I said, I don't think this really makes any sense. Knight f6, bishop b2. So his bishop's operating on a closed diagonal. And I like bishop g4. I like this move for its disruptive purposes. I was also planning to play it if he had simply played bishop b2. Just go bishop g4. And see if I could compel him to weaken his kingside pawns, like go h3 and then g4. Something like this. Because I think that provides me certain opportunities in the middle game when he's already advanced these pawns and weakened, for instance, f4 and h4. So all this occurred, bishop g4. If he had put the knight on f3, I might have just taken it and doubled his pawns. Here, I played e6. a3, not really sure what that move was about. I played c5. And then take. Yeah, now I like my position. It's a certainty that black is probably for choice here. Bishop g2, and then bishop d6. So I was talking about the implications of g5 if he were to go for that move. And then knight h5. This defends g7, and it took me a second to realize I would be threatening queen takes g5 here. So even though my knight is temporarily sidelined, he may not be able to make use of it. Maybe he could play h4, but I think with my knight always having access to this square, if I could even play it right now, and also the possibility of h6, with a position like this, I think h4 is likely to be weak, and I'm still defending g7. So he castled, I castled. Yeah, so here, I think he just chose the wrong plan, playing for e4. I think maybe he should go for f4, and perhaps it's not that bad if he does this. Let's take a look at what the engine says. The engine still likes black by quite a bit. Probably due to the structure. I mean, I think the engine is picking up on many of the weaknesses that white has. White's structure just doesn't leave a good impression. But f4, or yeah, maybe c4, as the computer was saying a second ago, seems to be good. I'm not sure about this plan of playing for e4.
Check.
So this is sometimes a good thing to do when you have a queen-bishop battery operating. You can give a check and then move the bishop to the intended square, and you've inconvenienced your opponent's king. I thought maybe he would go to h1 instead. Computer likes king f1. I'm a little surprised, because I thought h1 was much the better square. And then I was going to play bishop f4 as in the game, and f2 is undefended in this case. And I'm threatening to take and then win this pawn. So he played king f1, I played bishop f4, e5, knight d7, yeah, knight f3, bishop e4. Now this pawn is kind of cut off from the action. It's difficult for him to defend. Queen e2 is kind of a clever defense. So if I take here trying to eliminate a defender, he takes and his queen is now participating in holding the pawn. But it seems like f6 is a good move, all the same. Computer actually likes bishop f3, but I think f6 is good. So he could try knight d4 right now. I take, he takes. And he's threatening knight takes e6, so yeah, rook a e8. Take. Take with a rook, helping to defend here. Yeah, I think black's still for choice at this point because of the f4 square being nice for my pieces. I wonder if I could also take with the knight and even allow this move. Yeah, queen c8. And he is in a pin here. I'm not sure about this because it takes a while to win the knight somehow. But he can't move it at the same time, and he can't move the queen anywhere off the file because I'll just take the knight. Unless he could play something like queen f3 attacking the bishop. But this might also favor black. Something along these lines. Knight e4 at the end, attacking f2. So after f6, I believe he took on f6. I took with the knight, and then he played knight d4. And I played rook a e8. Now I've got all my pieces operating together. I really like this. And the e6 weakness is defended. And f3 was really asking for it. Yeah, in retrospect, that looks to be the losing move. But as you can see, his position is not coordinated. It's kind of an incoherent position anyways. And it just looks like a mess for white to play. Maybe he should do something like king here and just try to get his king out of the danger zone. And I guess that allows check. King moves somewhere, and then maybe
Check.
my knight comes into e4, attacking f2. Yeah, that could be big trouble. Some line like this might be possible. Rook
Check.
takes f2, rook takes, queen g3.
Check.
Yeah, if he goes to f1, he gets mated.
Checkmate.
Going to h1 allows
Check.
this with a win. So most of the tactics are going to favor black here. So he played f3, and I played bishop g3. Maybe there's something better. The direct e5 is what the computer likes. Yeah, I can see why this would be good too. Knight f5, take, knight h5. Okay, and maybe I can use the g3 square for my knight. He's really hurting on the dark squares. Also, his bishop is locked in and kind of useless, and I'm threatening rook takes f5. That's just winning for black too. So I did this, and I was calculating a line like take, and then knight takes, knight f3, and then simply taking here. Point being, if he takes with the rook, I have knight g3 check, forking the king and the queen. So I thought he'd have to take with the queen. I guess maybe he can take with the king too, but yeah, something like this looks really bad. Technically, he's doing fine material-wise for the moment, but I'm kind of splitting his position in half here, and he can't get his king to safety. He's caught on the f-file. Can't flee to e2 because he loses his bishop. Yeah, it's got to be losing. So he, after bishop g3, just moved his rook away. The computer says that this is his best shot. I guess giving up an exchange, hoping to defend the position somehow. But he moved the rook away, and now e5. This is a good move. Yeah, I mean, we could try to just move the bishop back, and it would still be a bad idea for him to take here. So we pile on the knight, and he can't use the e1 square, remember? But e5 is decisive, highlighting the fact that his knight doesn't have anywhere to go except for the bad f5 square, and also the fact that taking here is death down the f-file. Yeah, I guess knight f5, relatively speaking, is his best try, but once again, something like this, and yeah, knight h5, opening up rook takes f5 again. I was thinking queen b6 might also be useful, stop his king from retreating. Black has all the trumps in this position. So king g1, we took here. Yeah, he regained the piece, but this is an easy game at this point. If bishop takes d4, I was demonstrating this one. Bishop h2, king h1, knight g3, fork, and winning. I guess I don't even need to take the queen in that line. I can do this. Double check on the king. And then whether his king goes to g1 or h1, it's queen h2 checkmate. It's a nice line. So knight takes e4. Yeah, and at the moment he's only down one pawn, but the decisive factor is how open his king is. He went queen g2 and lost after this, but yeah, something like queen d3 is also not going to help. Rook e3, I'm kind of circling his king. The sharks are circling. Their fins are out. Queen takes d4, bishop f2. Yeah, and I'm going to get at h3, or my queen will make an appearance on g3. Yeah, and if he had played queen h1, the only move to defend here. Oh, this is leading to mate. Yeah, I guess so. Take, queen check, king f1, and queen f4. Okay, and if he goes to g2, we have rook e2. Checkmate. I would have probably played, after queen h1, just bishop h4, threatening queen g3. That should also be good. Well, I guess he has rook d3 in that case. Queen e5, yeah, threatening rook e1. I mean, just compare the difference in piece activity. That's all you got to know here. So he took and quickly got mated.
Checkmate.
Okay, so yeah, this is what can happen when you move too quickly in the opening. I mean, just watch his time. I'll just kind of scroll through the moves. And it was also compounded by the fact that he didn't choose a very good opening. But by the time, in my opinion, where he started getting in trouble, right around here, he had used not even a minute yet. Started thinking a little bit there. Still playing pretty fast. Yeah, and I mean, his position's busted by the time he's even used a third of his time. So, got to do better with that time management, CoolDefender, if you wanna improve. So, all right, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.